Nearly 30,000 people are now known to have died in Turkey and Syria following Monday's devastating earthquakes.
The rescue efforts are still ongoing, but almost a week on, hope is fading that many more people will be found alive.
Meanwhile, Turkey's Vice President has said more than 100 arrest warrants have been issued over the construction of buildings that collapsed. Louisa Pilbeam has this report.
Bebek ya. Bebek mi? Bebek.
Al bunu da.
This is the sound of survival. A baby pulled alive from the rubble by rescuers after nearly 6 days in Hatay, southern Turkey. And 7-year-old Ishra freed after being trapped for 136 hours. And in Syria, where fewer rescue teams are able to reach in the war-torn country, people still somehow being found. But the faith in miracles is fading.
3 of my grandchildren, with a husband and my daughter. 5 people, I'm waiting.
And amongst the grief, there is anger. At least 6,000 apartment buildings collapsed in Turkey, many newly constructed, with few people getting out alive.
The building company threw concrete pieces and coal ash inside. Construction, sand pile, that's it. These constructions were not supervised by the state. So many people died because of these actions, because there was no control.
Aid is arriving in Turkey, and survivors need all they can get. A warning too that the world needs to give more.
What happened here on Monday, the epicenter of the earthquake, was the worst event in 100 years in this region.
Leaving Bryce Norton in Oxfordshire, an emergency medical team of 11, funded by the UK government, departed for Turkey on Saturday afternoon. Rescuers and medics are being hampered by unrest. Reports in southern Turkey of looting. Turkey's president warning he will use emergency powers to punish those breaking the law. And it's urgent help that millions across this region really need, now more than ever. Louisa Pilbeam, BBC News.
Let's take you there live now to Turkey and the scene. This gives you a real sense of what rescuers there are really trying to deal with. This is Kahramanmaraş. There's a population of about 380,000 people. That city close to the epicentre of the earthquakes that hit nearly a week ago. It was Monday when those earthquakes hit. It's not yet known quite clearly how many have died, but as we were hearing, the death toll expected to double. The UN describing this as the worst tragedy that they've seen in 100 years. Some incredible stories of rescue, of course, but now the very difficult challenge for the authorities is to work out how to allocate resources between protecting those that have survived, those who are alive and those that have been rescued, rather than the operation to try and save more people. The longer, of course, this goes on, the more unlikely it is that they will find more people underneath the wreckage there. So that's Kahramanmaraş, a population of about 380,000 people.
All throughout the week, we have been hearing stories of the remarkable rescue efforts that have been taking place. Take a look at this. This is Dr. Malcolm Russell, and he is the medical director at the UK International Search and Rescue Team. This is the moment he found a man who'd been buried under rubble for 5 days in Hatay in Turkey, a southern province.
Hello. Malcolm. The doctor.
Is it okay?
Okay, yeah, okay. Okay.
Gives you a real sense there of what those rescuers are dealing with just to get people out of that wreckage. Well, earlier we heard from Dr. Malcolm Russell, who was in that video. He told us about that incredible rescue.
That operation took approximately 20 hours of digging. I was one of 4 medics in that team, and the team had to basically go through one building that was still standing, tunnel through the wall of that building, and then out through that wall into the wall of the collapsed building, and then effectively mine a small tunnel to where they could hear 2 people tapping. The team worked in shifts. We worked absolutely flat out through the night. digging and breaking with electric breakers, hammers, bolsters, pruning saws to cut through bits of timber in the way, and bolt crops to cut through wire and reinforcement bar, making a small tunnel all the way down. And when we found the casualties, then myself, just as part of the medical team, were able to crawl down, make an assessment, establish some intravenous access, give pain relief and some drugs and IV fluids and monitoring. And so what you saw in the video was me effectively doing a patient check. We'd already removed one lady, and I was going just to check that that gentleman was okay, assess how far we'd got as we planned his extrication.
Well, we're now joined by Nadav Markman, who is the Deputy Israeli Ambassador to Turkey and is coordinating Israel's search and rescue teams in the region. We're so grateful for you joining us this morning here on Breakfast. We've been hearing remarkable stories of rescues nearly a week on, but they are few and far between, aren't they?
Yes, so good morning. Like you said, there is a grand effort by the State of Israel to search and rescue as many people as possible here. Israel was one of the first countries to send a delegation, and I think out of 68 foreign delegations, as far as I know, the Israeli one has rescued the highest amount of people, 19 so far. I think that it's coming to an end now, that all the efforts, have been there on the field for 7 days. And now the probability of finding people alive is unfortunately getting much lower.
And tell us about the 5-year-old boy that you rescued.
Yeah, so basically one of our rescue crews was in a building, and they came into kind of this closed hall. I wasn't there, but I heard the story from the commander afterwards, and they were completely silenced to hear if they can hear any survivor, and they heard the smallest noise, the weakest noise, through a crack in the wall, and it turned out later that a boy was 2 floors above them. I believe it was a 6-year-old boy. Eventually, they managed to rescue him alive after, of course, an extensive and careful assessment and operation. He went to hospital and he made it. And I think coming to such a place and from this tiniest sound, getting out a boy alive, it's a whole world. In Israel, we have a saying, you saved one soul, you saved the world.
What an incredible story, and also remarkable that you were in Ankara yourself when the earthquake struck.
Yeah, so as an employee of the Israeli embassy in Ankara, I actually felt the earthquake on the morning of Monday, around 4:15 a.m. My building shook. We had a very fast response of our ambassador, Irit Lilian, who recommended to our MFA, Ministry of Foreign Affairs headquarters in Jerusalem, to send a crew from our embassy. And they also responded very fast. It was approved, and I was heading there a few hours after the earthquake with a 4-man crew with me in a car, driving through the snow. But on the same night of the earthquake, we were already in Adana airport, receiving Israeli planes with over 100 IDF soldiers and rescuers that did this grand effort, and with a lot of equipment and humanitarian aid. Until now, I can tell you that over 200 tons were arrived here from Israel, and we are a delegation of about 450 people, which is a big scale delegation for such a small country like Israel.
Yeah, incredible work. Nadav, thank you so much for joining us on Breakfast this morning.